Hello beautiful beings, and welcome back to the channel. I hope this video helps you become the person you want to be and the truth of who you are. Today we're going to talk about people who trigger you. When the world triggers you, when a specific person triggers you, and a huge component of what the universe is trying to get you to look at when you are being triggered. Now, I have to warn you, you are not going to want to watch this video all the way through. There's going to be so many parts of your ego that shake its head and go, I don't need this, no, this isn't for me, this doesn't resonate with me. You don't have to watch this all the way through, but if you do, the amount of transformation and transmutation that it's going to create is going to be worth it, I promise. But we have to take a good hard look in the mirror to understand why we are being so triggered, and people hate hearing that. The ego hates hearing that because it wants to hear, people are triggering me because they suck. People are triggering me because they are bad. The ego wants to be right so it can feel good. The ego is trying to protect you from what at some point in your life, you told the ego you couldn't handle. The ego is a mechanism of protection, but we have to upgrade our software in the ego so it can continue to protect us at the levels we're at, instead of, maybe it's still trying to protect the 4-year-old or the 5-year-old who couldn't handle and process certain things. So it shuts you down to seeing them and just says, oh, that person's wrong, that person is really messed up. Now, I'm also going to preface this by saying there are people doing bad, negative, awful things in the world, and you resolving your triggers to those things doesn't mean those things are okay or good or valid. It simply means you are no longer being controlled by those things or overwhelmed by those things or those people. You are actually going to be able to remain in your center around them. So people who are absolutely distraught over injustices in the world, and when someone does something unfair or this or that, or the myriad of things. Think about someone in your life that gets really fired up around this topic. They get really pissed off about it. Not passionate, like, oh, I'm gonna make a change here, I've got an action plan, but oh, this is so bad. When people do that, it's because they've got a big trigger around it. Taking action and making change and having a positive impact in the world is a vastly different frequency than judging and being pissed off and triggered by something. And people don't understand that, some people don't understand that you cannot be in that state of crazy, triggered, pissed off and have the full impact that you want to have. So getting rid of the trigger does not validate the thing that triggers you. It puts you into your center so you can take the action that is fair and just and true to your heart. That being said, let's start talking about triggers. And you can focus on anyone or anything that really triggers you. That's going to help you kind of integrate this information by being able to apply it to something real in your life. When someone or something triggers us, it's generally showing us a few things. It can be showing us an aspect inside of ourselves that we have not made peace with. So I'll give you an example. If you have a roommate that's very lazy and always laying around, they're just lazy, and that person triggers you and bothers you and messes with your fucking day and your vibe and your emotions, it means that there's something about that person that is resonating with a part of you that you haven't accepted. Maybe you're someone that doesn't allow yourself time off. Maybe you judge that as bad, and so when you see it in another person, there's a part of you that's just so angry because they are representing the part of you you don't accept, the part that takes a break. And even if they're excessively lazy, if you have a peace within yourself around the part that's restful and can take a fucking break, then seeing someone like that isn't going to trigger you. You might go, that's not how I want to be. I want to be proactive and cleaning up the house and taking care of things. But you won't look at them and have your energy be agitated. So they could be representing something in you that you're not embracing and accepting and allowing to be in your field. All aspects of ourselves want to be integrated and loved. And you can see that when removing your trigger to the lazy person, you're not saying, okay, now I'm accepting myself as lazy. You're saying, I accept in the aspect of me that needs to take a break every once in a while. I yield to that as part of myself, and I no longer reject that part of myself. You might have to go back into childhood. The video is not going to be long enough to take you through that process, but you might have to go back and see what your trigger is. You could start writing it down, what your trigger is about being lazy, and find a way to let that go so you can have healthy rest. That's just an example. Another thing that people can be doing, or even situations, government, branches of government, disaster response teams, anyone that's like bothering you because they're not doing it right, that could be an indicator also of a past version of yourself that you haven't accepted and forgiven. So, for example, if someone, let's say you see someone who's being very neglectful to their plants, to their pets, to their children, and that person, you just can't get them out of your head, they infuriate you. You might be holding resentment towards a part of yourself that neglected maybe even yourself, maybe even another animal, maybe something in your life. Maybe there was a time you neglected something and it died, a plant, an animal, something could have happened. And so you are rejecting and being very triggered by what you're witnessing because it's bringing up a past part of you haven't forgiven. You know, you might be very attentive now, so that might not actually be what you're living from in your frequency now, but you reject that part of you that neglected. So you're rejecting that person who's neglecting. And when you can go back and say, okay, to the part of me that neglected, let's just use something weird. Let's say you neglected a plant and it was a beautiful rose bush. Oh my God, I love roses. So that would be a hard one for me to get over. But you neglected it and it died. You would have to go back, and instead of being like, well, I suck, I neglected it and I killed it and I hate myself for that. You know, something was probably happening around that time in your life too that added to that trigger. You would have to go back and say, why did I neglect it? What level of overwhelm was I going through? What was going on in me where I couldn't tend to this thing that I loved? Forgive yourself. Love yourself through that. Say, oh my God, I got you. I'm so sorry. I know you were fucking overwhelmed and you did the best you could. And then all of a sudden when you're looking at that person who's being neglectful, you are not condoning their neglect, but you can say, I love you as I love the part of me that I have refused to love for so long, and thank you for giving me that opportunity. I wouldn't go up to them and say that. It's a little much, but doing that in your mind, you'll be amazed at what happens when you see yourself reflected in the other people and have compassion. And a lot of times people that are getting mad at like corporations and things like that, and I'm not condoning anything. I'm just saying if it's messing with your vibration, you need to clear up the trigger. I'm not condoning big pharma. I'm not condoning a lot of these things I'm going to talk about. But we're looking at the bigger picture here so you can be free to take action and you can be free to love and embody yourself fully so you're a more potent human being on this planet. So let's say you're really upset at the pharmaceutical companies and you condemn and condemn and condemn them. You have to look at, where am I being like that pharmaceutical company? What am I attributing? What are their attributes that I hate so much? And where am I showing up like that in my life? Falsifying information. Where is what I'm doing harming another? Am I slinging burgers at McDonald's and I know that when I send those orders out the window, like, it's not good, it's harming people? Just, you really have to look at the little finite details and be like, okay, where is this in me and can I forgive it? And then the trigger goes away and you become more effective and potent on your journey. So triggering people and things are getting you to look at aspects of self that you reject, or aspects in the past that you have not forgiven. And when you start looking at the world like this, every trigger is an opportunity to go into the energy of love. Not to love the corporation, not to love how that person is being, but to love in a way that is compassionate, that sees the bigger picture. I know for a fact, I don't resonate with most Western medicine. I don't resonate with most big corporations. There's a lot of those things I don't resonate with, but they're not my enemy. And I don't have to come up with a bunch of conspiracy theories to demonize them or make them wrong. I can look within those companies and see well-intended people that are doing the best they can. And some of the most broken people are usually the people at the top who are doing the best they can, and they feel justified in what they're doing. Or they secretly feel horrible about it, but they can't change. And to have compassion for that. Like, think about Big Pharma. This is a huge corporation that brings in billions, trillions of dollars a year. And there are people that want out of it, but won't get out of it because it gives them security. So they continue to be part of this toxic cycle. When have you ever stayed in something that gives you security, but was toxic? When you look at everything through this lens, sorry guys, the wind just kicked up like crazy, you can start to see, wow, everything is everything, and it's all connected, and it's all a mirror universe. And when you can go into that space of love and forgiveness, you're no longer as impacted by the energies of those people or those things. And, you know, triggers can also be showing you, someone who expects a lot out of you could be triggering you to look at the part of yourself that expects a lot out of yourself, right? Because if they expect a lot out of you and you're like, no, I'm showing up the best I can, and you feel good about that, you're going to feel okay when they expect a lot out of you. But if they expect a lot out of you and you have this idea that I never do enough and I need to do more, them expecting a lot out of you is going to trigger you, because it's going to show you a mirrored part that lays within you. And the harder it is for you to see where someone or something is mirroring you, the deeper that aspect of you has been kind of buried inside of yourself. So it's kind of like shadow work, mirror work. This is how you can set yourself free from feeling triggered by the whole world. And I'll make another video on this. I'll link it below when I have it ready. But the next part about people that trigger you is this whole delusion of right and wrong, and how we have been trained that in order to feel right, we have to make someone else wrong. And in order for someone else to be right, we have to make ourselves wrong. So we are constantly trying to go through life and saying, well, that's wrong, that's right, I'm right, that's wrong, oh, that's right, so I must be wrong. And that whole little game and charade, I want to make a video that I will be putting out on Sunday about how you can let go of the need to be right and make things wrong. Imagine what your life would be like in big and small ways if you didn't navigate through that lens of, oh, that's right, that's wrong. People get scared because they're like, well, then I would just be out in the wind, just, doing drugs and sleeping on the street. That's not true. Right and wrong, oh, this is big. Right and wrong is not what keeps us in our center. It's alignment and misalignment. And you can't really understand true alignment if you're constantly judging everything else and yourself, because that's not where you find alignment. So if I'm aligned to drink lemon water this morning, that doesn't mean drinking an herbal tea is wrong. So in not making that herbal tea wrong, I still have access to it if I want to in the future. Eating meat for me is not right or wrong. It's, do I feel aligned to it in that moment? Same with vegetables. Understanding how to navigate the world through alignment rather than the judgmental, dogmatic right and wrong, that's going to be a whole other video and a whole other level of really, really releasing triggers. Okay, guys, have fun with that one. Go examine the most difficult relationships in your life, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself.